Good evening. Well, welcome to Rushcliffe Borough Council's November Cabinet meeting. I'd like to remind everybody that this Cabinet meeting is being live streamed on YouTube. A recording of the meeting will be available afterwards on the Council's YouTube channel. In addition, under the Local Authorities Executive Arrangements, Meetings Access to Information England Regulations 2012, other people may film, record, tweet or blog from this meeting. The use of such images or sound recordings is not under the Council's control. I'd like to welcome Councillor Jones with us this evening and other members of the public who are watching on YouTube tonight. So I'd like to move to the first item on the agenda. Apologies for absence, please.
There are no apologies for absence this evening.
Okay, do I have any declarations of interest? No. Okay. Could I have a proposer to accept the minutes from the 11th of October 2022? Councillor Edderby, a seconder. Councillor Moore, all those in favour to accept those minutes? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 4, citizens' questions. We have none received, I understand. Opposition group leaders' questions, none received. So we'll move then on to item 6, which is the Greater Nottinghamshire Strategic Plan Preferred Option. Councillor Upton.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm pleased to present this positive report, of which I believe we can all be proud. It's a legal requirement that local development plans are regularly reviewed, and if we don't, we increase the risk of speculative, unplanned development. And I think we know from recent experience what that can be like. Our current local plan expires in 2028, so it's appropriate that we prepare a new one to run up to 2038. And this is what this report is concerned with. In the spirit of collaboration, Rushcliffe, Broxtowe, Gedling and Nottingham City Councils belong to the Greater Nottingham Joint Planning Advisory Board, JPAB, to plan for a wider area more holistically. And we have jointly prepared this draft strategic plan for consideration by all the councils. If approved by all 4 councils, the aim is to consult on this preferred approach by the end of this year, to publish a final draft in the summer of next year, and then to government inspection later in 2023. It's referred to as the preferred approach, which focuses on housing and employment, but the full range of topics will be included in the final draft plan that goes to public consultation. Indeed, the comprehensive list of supporting documents is listed in paragraph 4.4 of this report. Now, this is a detailed report, and there is even more detail in the 78-page draft strategic plan, which is attached as Appendix 1. But clearly, it's not appropriate for me to go through this in detail tonight. This preferred approach has been scrutinised and approved by recent meetings of our cross-party local development forum. However, I'd like to highlight some key issues, if I may. Firstly, each council will meet its own housing need as determined by the government standard method, except for Nottingham City, which it is proposed will meet as much as it can. It is not proposed that the city's unmet need will be met elsewhere in Greater Nottingham, as has previously been the case. To be clear, it is not proposed that Rushcliffe takes any overspill from the City of Nottingham. We believe that in Rushcliffe, we already have enough allocated housing sites to meet our requirement, including a significant buffer. And while several potential sites have been put forward by developers, landowners and others, there is no requirement for the allocation of any new strategic housing sites within Rushcliffe. The anticipated housing supply within Rushcliffe from 2022 to 2038 is around 14,300 homes, which significantly exceeds our government housing target. This provides us with sufficient protection against any potential future housing undersupply. But this report is not just about housing, it's also addressing economic development and employment. Now, an independent employment land needs study has been carried out, and details are given in a background paper. The estimated requirements are set out in paragraph 421 of this report, but it's considered that we already have enough sites identified in Rushcliffe in our current local plan. As with housing, several potential sites have been put forward by developers, landowners and others, particularly in the A453 and the A46 corridors. But we believe there is no justification at this time to identify any new strategic employment sites. We already have enough. Housing and employment are rightly important issues, especially given our current national situation. Rushcliffe Borough Council takes its responsibilities for these extremely seriously, and this is why this report on the Greater Nottingham Strategic Plan, the preferred approach to 2038, is so important. We are delivering on these issues. Indeed, between April 2021 and March this year, 1,110 new homes were completed in Rushcliffe, more in a single year than from several decades, and many of them affordable homes. And our housing land supply figure is currently a very healthy 8.9 years. Chairman, before I propose the recommendation, I'd just like to thank Richard Mapletoft, our planning policy manager, for the work that he and other members of his team have put in to deliver this hugely complex piece of work in a timely and appropriate way. So, Chairman, I'd like to propose the recommendation as set out in paragraph 2 of the report, namely, it is recommended that Cabinet A approves the Greater Nottingham Strategic Plan preferred approach, insofar as it relates to Rushcliffe Borough for public consultation, and B, delegates authority to the Director for Development and Economic Growth to approve any minor changes required to the preferred approach document and the evidence base prior to consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Second, please. Councillor Heavy.
Yeah, I think it's very fair to say that we've always taken very seriously our contribution to developing the Greater Nottingham Strategic Plan, and obviously making sure it's for the benefit of Rushcliffe residents as well. And I think, as Councillor Upton says, it's also poignant that all of those decisions that are made at the Greater Nottingham Strategic Plan, or JPAG, meetings are then extensively discussed at the local development forum by our own councillors. I think one of the most important things that I've taken from this whole process is that we do not have to plan for any additional housing other than what we've already got in local plan part 2. And importantly, we do have sufficient land designated to employment, which should see us able to attract quality employers and high value jobs for the borough. So I'm very happy to second the recommendation.
Thank you very much. Any other comments at all? Just a couple of things. I think one of the things that you did say, Councillor Upton, there was really stopping developers not making opportunities land snatches, if you like, to develop because of the plan. And we know a few years ago we weren't in very good shape on this, were we? And we did suffer, and we've seen that where we lose control on appeal, etc. So having that eight and a half years now, is it? Yeah, 8.9 years is obviously a really healthy buffer to have. The other thing I just like to point out, I've always found this very strange. If you look at figure 1 on the map, there's a big yawning gap there, and it's called Ashfield, which also abuts the city, doesn't it? And yet it's never part of the JPAB consultation. I find that very odd. I know it's been questioned several times that the dependency has gone on and doesn't seem to and never made a contribution to this proposal at all. So if you want to comment on that.
No, the point you make is quite valid. We do debate quite often the Hucknall area, which is part of Ashfield and does abut the north of the city of Nottingham, and so that's quite often debated. But you're absolutely right. Ashfield isn't part of the group.
No, apart from that, I think just the last thing I'd like to say is just to echo your comments about Richard Mapletoft. I know it's been a very, very tough piece of work and all the team around, and just like to Mr. Ashmore, could pass it on, please, to the team to recognise the huge effort that's gone into this to get this document. I think for many residents, all they'll see is that we don't want any more houses, but I know the amount of work to get to that point. It's a cliche, but it's a lot of work to get to that. So if we take this item forward then, as proposed by Councillor Lupton, seconded by Councillor Edwin, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to the next item on here is the update on the insourcing of Streetwise. Councillor English.
Chair, well, this is a progress report following the Cabinet's decision earlier this year to the insourcing of the services of Streetwise under its umbrella of Streetwise Environmental Limited and Streetwise Environmental Trading Limited. So following this, the 6 months work of preparatory work with the oversight of a project board led by the Chief Exec, as in 4.1, this took effect from the 1st of September. And that's allowed us privilege to be able to welcome all the staff into the council as they arrived, which to me was in the middle of the night at 6 o'clock in the morning. But anyway, it's still early days of the transition. Strong foundations have now been laid that can be built on with good practice procedures and community partnerships being put into place. So I'm really pleased to report that it's been delivered without any loss of service and has already improved quality in some of the areas with the adopted contracts. There's still legal steps to be taken to complete the process, as in 4.3, and the implications of it in 7.2, which are anticipated to be completed in 2023. The business plan to the insourcing was based on projected cost savings with the council's medium-term financial strategy over the 3 years, with an important focus and concentration and protection of a high-quality service to Rushcliffe itself, while keeping the established recognised branding and good reputation of Streetwise alive. 7.1 refers to the budget efficiencies, but unfortunately they've had a negative hit, as of most businesses that are suffering with the pressure of recent high economic rises in inflation, energy, fuel and pay. But those increased costs would have still been present had Streetwise not been insourced. So the final progress will continue to be monitored, and I trust the current development of a chargeable discretionary service will enhance further income. The report details the process and workings to date, especially in 4.4, and how the staff have been regularly engaged with and importantly listened to, along with the creation of the staff working group. This has been very successful and will continue routinely, with all positive feedback being shared to encourage the drive towards greater service quality, especially in areas of grass cutting, pitch maintenance, road cleansing, fly tip removal, litter and dong bins, leaf and tree work as some of their key areas. Obviously, assets have been reviewed and negotiated where appropriate. Disposals have been made in the streamlining process, i.e. with a fleet and with a Sprockton base. So in summary, I will confirm that I'm satisfied with my oversight, that the process is going well and is on track to deliver the corporate priorities that Rushcliffe public spaces are to be maintained to the highest level. So quality of life is yes, efficient services yes, sustainable growth yes, and the environment yes. I'd also like to take this opportunity to highlight and praise what has been considerable hard work with difficult decisions and challenges that the executives, the officers and staff on both sides have faced and addressed during this transition period. I'd like to say Kath Marriott, Dave Banks, Darryl Birch, Dee Hunt, Susan Harvey and Stephanie Powell, who also warrants further congratulations in their new position as a street scene team leader. I know from our personal depot visits and site labels with staff, the move has been welcomed and is supported with much enthusiasm. So I'd like to move that recommendation as in A, it endorses the work that has been successfully undertaken to insource the Streetwise operations and to monitor the delivery of savings achieved via the transformation strategy with the council's medium-term financial strategy over the next 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor English. I have a seconder, Councillor Moore.
Isn't it nice when a plan comes together? We've sat in this room and we debated the subject for ages. Huge amount of details, argument, what we're going to do. This report vindicates all the work, all the thought processes that we went through. So it's really good. It was the right decision at the time. We got there in the end to bring Streetwise in-house. And I'm really pleased to see from this report that the operation's running smoothly. And I second the thanks that my colleague here has given to the officers concerned. And Dave, I do hope you'll be able to pass those thanks on to the whole of the team, because it doesn't work without a team working on it. Just one final point. I note the financial comments made at 7.1 and I understand fully the current financial pressures on all businesses. But I agree these pressures are not due to bringing Streetwise back in-house. I have one little concern. I'm going to ask Peter to answer this. My only concern is recommendation B and how that financial monitoring will take place. Will it be via scrutiny, or will there be a report via the budget process? But apart from that question, I'm very happy to second the recommendation.
Okay. Mr. Linfield, do you mind just responding to that?
Okay. Well, fairly straightforward. Obviously, Streetwise is now what we term business as usual in terms of the council, and we do have tried and tested processes in which how we record both performance and the budget. So through our usual quarterly budget monitoring, there'll be reporting that way. Obviously, we've got the medium-term financial strategy just around the corner. That'll be going to full council in early March. As part of that, and the transformation programme, we will be referencing Streetwise with some savings targets, which will be hardwired into the budget, and then they will also then be monitored or going forward as part of those processes. So there'll be a sort of comprehensive way in which the ongoing budget will be monitored.
Thank you. I'm quite happy that clarifies the situation.
Cool. Thank you very much. Any other comments? Just ask one question. You talked about Sproxton leaving early. Sproxton, when actually are we departing now? Just as early. Sorry, yeah. Already gone, is it? Oh, sorry, it's already been done, is it? Sorry, I just thought you. Okay, excellent. Good. Okay, so the proposal there put forward there by the recommendation to A and B, put forward by Councillor English, seconded by Councillor Moore. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, next item is item 8, which is the Rushcliffe Enterprise Limited. So this really follows on. This is an item that I will be taking. This is follows on really from Streetwise, as Councillor English said that it's actually just in the report there that we were shareholders of the two companies, and obviously now that this is now coming in there, we need to simplify the structure. There are currently 4 directors of this business, which is 3 members plus the chief executive, and of course we have 1 secretary as well. It is the sole shareholder of both the trading companies, so it makes obviously sense as a procedural issue now to make this company now dormant and to release the legal obligations around the directors, etc. So this item really now just make sure that we take this procedure forward. I do need to add that, of course, we can actually bring the company live again, and then we can actually obviously use it as a trading entity. But really, it makes a lot of sense to do this, especially after, as Councillor English was the journey really for Streetwise, and I think it also makes sense to keep Rushcliffe Enterprise as a dormant company and say can be brought back at a little cost on that. So I'd like to move the recommendation as set out in the report there. Have a seconder, please. Councillor Edwin.
Yeah, obviously this is very much a procedural recommendation linked to the previous recommendation and wrapping it up, so I don't really think I can add anything more to that other than, as you say, we know that the company is there for future use if we never need to bring it back. So I'm happy to second the recommendation.
Okay, lovely. Okay, so proposal recommended me, which is section 2, which is A, B and C, seconded by Councillor Edwin. All those in favour? That's carried unanimously. The final item on the agenda, we have proposals for the new Ed Walton Community Hall building. Councillor Brennan, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, so this report provides an update on the Sharp Hill Wood Sustainable Urban Extension and the provision of local community spaces for hire within that new development. The report makes proposals to develop a new local community centre to meet the needs of the new resident population and to complement the wider community space for hire in that area. which is the special expenses area of Edwalton and Gampston. The recommendations are set out at paragraph 2, which are namely that the Cabinet acknowledges the need for an additional local community venue for hire within the Sharp Hill Woods SUE, and approves the allocation of 0.5 million in the capital programme for 23-24 to develop the community venue for hire. Sharp Hill Woods development is off Melton Road. It is a sustainable urban extension comprising of around 1,500 dwellings, up to 4 hectares of employment land, local centre, a community park, allotments, community orchard, amenity open space, child's play provision, and a primary school with integrated community facilities. It's located in the Edwalton ward, which has 2 primary schools, Edwalton Primary and now the new Rosecliffe Spencer Academy. That Rosecliffe Primary School does contain a joint use community element, which was a requirement of the Planning Commission, as part of the means to meet the community needs of the needs of the emerging community. However, it's become clear that the requirements of the school in terms of issues of safeguarding, public access and so on, it wouldn't be possible for local groups to use that shared community space during the day, for the most part, leaving only weekends and evenings by arrangement for community groups to use that shared space. I think probably for reasons we all understand, safeguarding the use of the kids using it during the day, we can't have public access to that space, very difficult to manage dual users. As a consequence, a review of the available community venues was undertaken, and it was concluded that there was a need for a smaller hall to cater for groups of around up to 40 people that could be used during school hours during the daytime. So in consultation with the developer, an appropriate site was identified for the building of a new accessible community facility, which will have pedestrian links to Sharp Hill Woods and will be near to the community orchard and the allotments, and there is a map of the space in your annex to the paper. The key requirements are that the facility would be available during the daytime, would be able to cater for small groups of up to 40, in one large meeting room, up to 10 in a smaller meeting room, would have on-site parking, toilet provision, kitchen provision, and some drop-in office facilities for the management, as well as some scope for external storage for those volunteer groups that are working on the Sharp Hill Woods Nature Reserve close by. Another key requirement identified was that the centre should align with the Borough Council's carbon reduction targets, and although the design is yet to be finalised, the indicative design is also appended to the paper. The building will be essentially carbon net zero, with solar panels, air source heat pumps and high standards of thermal insulation, and the build materials, when finalised, will also complement the natural environment that the building is located in. So Cabinet is being asked to make provision for the building cost of 0.5 million in next year's capital budget. The building will be built by the developers and then subsequently donated to the council, and the council will maintain and service the building on a day-to-day basis. Those details are set out in paragraph 4.16, and the financial arrangements are set out in section 7. So on that basis, I'd like to move the recommendations at paragraph 2 of the paper and ask Cabinet to agree the need for this facility and to make provision in the budget for the development of the new community facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brent. Have a seconder, please, for this. Councillor Upton.
Thank you, Chairman. Very pleased to second this report. As has been stated, the Sharp Hill Woods development is quite large. It comprises about 1,500 new homes and 4 hectares of employment land. And I think the size of this development needs a local community building, and I stress local rather than people having to go off-site, if you like, across roads and to other locations. So I do focus on the local part of the proposal. It is indeed unfortunate that the joint use community agreement for the facilities at the new Rosecliffe School prevents the community use during school hours due to safeguarding issues. I get that, but this proposed community building should, I think, provide a first-class facility for those local residents and for the wider West Bridgford community, not just during school hours, but at all times, really, and is available for hire for various groups. I think the proposed location is ideal, and I like the indicative building design, and I know it's indicative, but nevertheless, I like what's been considered. And I note that item 415 says that the building should be carbon neutral by 2030. That's a challenge, but I've every faith we can get that done. So, yeah, pleased to second the report, Jim.
Thank you very much. As you said, this is badly needed. The actual design itself has been through 4 of the Sharp Hill meetings where we had stakeholders there. So I think that's really good that we had people actually who will be using the place. So, for example, the Friends of Sharp Hill have been incredibly supportive, and there'll be sort of storage facilities for them. And we made some changes. There were movements on this, so this isn't the original one. And that was really by input, and I think that showed the flexibility to meet the requirements of the community. And we should also bear in mind that we do have the large school hall still available, which holds, I think, 150 as well. So that will give for the larger big meetings, subject obviously to the time restraints that's been mentioned. But in terms of local requirements, because one of the things I stressed is particularly you look at our more mature residents, particularly on winter nights, don't want to be going out at 4 o'clock. So they have their coffee mornings in the morning, and that's where the school really couldn't provide it. So I think this is an ideal and very, very badly needed. The site now is about just over 50% been rolled out. So there is a big community there already. So hopefully, say this can progress. One of the key things here is access in terms of roads as well in this area. So the location originally it was going to be envisaged perhaps more central. There are advantages to it being more central, but obviously, in terms of the layout of the site itself, road and path access was also very important. And I'm absolutely sure that the communities of Edwalton will welcome this, in addition to the community park and the playgrounds that will be coming, and also the other facilities around there, such as Alford Road and also the Boundary Road facilities as well, which are very close. So, yeah, I'm delighted this come forward now, and I'm looking forward to hopefully that Cabinet can approve tonight, and that we can see it being progressed over the next sort of 18 months or so. Any other comments on this at all? Okay, so as proposed by Councillor Brennan, seconded by Councillor Upton, all those in favour? That's carried. Thank you very much. So that concludes the Cabinet meeting for this evening. Thanks ever so much. There's a special mention for Councillor Moore. It's his birthday today, and he said he's going to buy champagne for everybody in the room and meal. So if everybody wants to go with Gordon's,